Hi everyone, it's Cindy from Cindy's Art. Today, let's go to the beach again. And this watercolor painting is another simple one. It's a 4x6 size and I use Arches watercolor pressed paper. This is cold press, 140 pound, which is cotton, which means it's going to absorb water well. I use Holbein watercolor paints in this picture. I'm using some silver brushes and I used washi tape for taping this picture down. I do that because when I put water on top of that paper, it can crinkle, it can roll up a little, and I've taped it onto the back of the cardboard from my watercolor pads of paper. So I am just going to lightly sketch the horizon line and then also the beach line. And then I move in with my silver brushes. I'm using a little bit of cerulean blue, horizon blue, and viriditur in order to do a wash. And with the wash, I've got my water laid down, putting my colors down, and it's nice and wet. You can see the shininess on this paper, and that's going to allow the paint to kind of run down and blend together. For the beach, I am using wet on wet again. I wet it down and then I'm going to add my colors in there. There's a good sheen on it. It's not soaking wet, but it's wet enough where I could see a little bit of like a sparkle if I held it up to the light. So that's one way you can know whether you can do a wash or not. A wash is wet on wet. I'm adding colors in. I'm letting them blend by themselves. So once that's done, I'm going to let this dry really well, and I'm going to go ahead and start to work in some of the ocean colors: marine blue, peacock blue, viridian, which is green, and then horizon blue, which is a very light blue, very, very light. And I'm going to use the viridian green in a few minutes to add a little bit of greenness towards the shoreline, and then I'll use darker blues. I can use ultramarine blue deep as well to put the colors in at the bottom of the wave, inside the wave as well. And what that'll do is allow me to get a three-dimensional look to the wave itself. I'm going to use a little bit of P.H. Martin. That is a watercolor paint, but it doesn't look like it. It's extremely thick, and it is a great way for me to take white and put it into my painting if I don't have enough white paper saved. And what I mean by white paper saved is when I've got to have the light, which has got white in my painting, I try not to paint on the paper at all. And if by chance a little bit of water gets into my paper and I lose that white, I will use the P.H. Martin and go back in, and I will use that to add in some of the texture for the foam or for the tops of the wave. And you'll see me use a Sakura pen in a few minutes too. It's a white pen, and I'm going to use that to draw some of the detail that we'll have for the beach foam in the front. Right now, all I'm doing is using my marine blue, peacock blue, or a little horizon blue, and I'm adding in a little bit of detail into the water. Now when I look at my water, looking at the entire ocean water section, and I am telling myself only add in about a third of detail. I don't need to add detail into everything there. It's just too much. But I can create the impression of ocean details by just thinking 1/3, just add a little bit of detail in. And as I move closer to the ocean shore, that's where I'm going to choose to add my detail. I don't need to have a lot of detail out there in the horizon, because if you look at water way out in the horizon, it's very soft and it does not have a lot of fine details like what we're painting in right now. This beach wave, I wanted to have the sand reflected really well underneath of this wave coming in. So I left it orange for the beach, and then I just used my PH Martin white, and it's very thick, and I just dip my brush in with a tiny bit of water and then a tiny bit of the PH Martin. It's thicker than gouache. Gouache is something that's commonly picked up and used, and I am using this instead lately. I love it. If I needed to correct a mistake, I will use this instead of gouache. It's very bright, it's very stark, and it does the job really well. These last moments with this painting, all I'm asking myself is, do I have enough detail to suggest the wave? Right now I'm dry brushing in a little bit of the foam that shows up on a wave. So that is not really like wet paint. I'm using dry paint practically on dry paper. And I'm just gonna take a look around and just see, do I need to add any dark like neutral. I used a little bit of neutral on the front part of the shadow of the wave. That's what I'm doing down below. And I may use it at the wave that's there in the middle, just at the very top of the wave underneath the white, just to make it stand out further. So I'm just looking to see if there's any final detail that I wanted to add in. I add it in, and then I peel off my washi tape. I let it dry really well, sign your work, and give it away to a friend or frame it. We'll see you next time.